Hey, David Taub here, co-creator of NextLevelGuitar.com. How you doing? I hope all is well, and I hope your guitar journeys are going famously. Some time ago I posted a list in a very old lesson of some things that you could do, that any guitar player can do, to get their guitar playing to the next level. And I kind of received a lot of email questions on that particular lesson, and I kind of wanted to expand on the list and make it a little bit more comprehensive. So I kind of put together the top 10 things that any guitar player can do to get his guitar playing or her guitar playing to the next level. They're in no particular order, so it's not like 10 being the least important and 1 being the most. These are all 10 very important things, and this is just my opinion. And if you find yourself, after going through this list, maybe weaker in 1 or 2 of the areas, those are the areas that you want to zero in on and practice on. Know a large catalog of chords. As you go through your guitar journey, keep learning new chords and keep learning how to take chords and embellish them. It's so important because it'll make your playing sound so much more interesting. You won't be stuck playing, A, D, and E all the time. The next thing, or number 2 on this list, I think, is know how to play good solid rhythm. It often gets overlooked, rhythm and timing, and it's such a critical aspect of your playing. A lot of guitar players just want to play like ripping guitar leads and burning, and then when it gets to playing rhythm, sometimes their rhythm playing is not up to the level of their solo playing. You really want to develop a good sense of solid rhythm and meter and timing. Strum patterns, you want to know lots of different strum patterns, and eventually get to be able to pick up strum patterns by ear and be able to tune into the rhythm of the strum pattern. And really, in my opinion, your lead guitar playing is really only ever going to be as good as your rhythm playing, because you're playing rhythm so often. 3 in this list would be develop your ear, and you'll hear me say that all the time. You're probably sick of me saying that. One of the most important things to any musician, I think, is to develop your ear and to really work on tuning your ear into, the sound of different chords and different progressions and the different moods that the chords give off, and how this affects you, and how you could bring certain emotions out with certain chords, and that's all you'll begin to hear it after a while. Once you start dialing your ear in that and practice picking off strum patterns down the road, eventually by ear, and learning lead guitar phrases and passages by picking them off by ear, it really goes such a long way. And that eventually train your ear to, when you're soloing, you'll go to like a lot of hip notes, and your ear will kind of take you to them. And there's really no substitute for developing your ear, and we have ear training modules on our website at nextlevelguitar.com, which, by the way, we have a 3-day free pass on the homepage. So if you want to look into over 850 lessons, all styles and genres of music, beginners, intermediates, advanced. Don't look at a certain particular guitar lesson or certain exercise as like an isolated kind of incident. You want to kind of take that and use it as a template to expand your playing, and then blast what you're learning across all your playing. And a lot of times I'll see students, they'll learn a particular exercise and they'll just practice that exercise over and over and over again, and they'll get good at that, but then they won't know how to apply that into a musical example because they're taking just the lesson out of context. So it's important that when you're studying guitar, and I try to always do that in my lessons, is to give you musical examples to practice it in, or a musical context. Even when you're like learning a certain lick or a certain riff, obviously it's just not that lick that you want to learn. It's also, how do I apply that? What keys, will it work in, over what chords? How can I move it to different keys? How can I take that lick and embellish it, right? So you want to try to look at things in a very global manner, and not just, this lesson is only for this given instance in time, and only for these chords, and only for this. It's not just about learning a certain exercise in a certain group of notes in a certain shape. It's about applying it in a musical context, right? Number 5 in this list of 10 is know the notes on the neck. I'm so surprised at how many students kind of skip that step, and then they go back to it later and they say, oh man, I wish I would have learned that when I was first learning the guitar. I think it's a real important thing, and it will help you along in your musical journey if you just take a little time to know the notes on the neck, how they work on the guitar, learn the 12-note scale that's used in Western music, and learn how to apply it. And you'll find it's pretty simple. Again, we have lessons for this on the website, and I even have note learning exercises to make you learn all the notes on the guitar neck. And just adding that a couple minutes a day, drilling them into your head eventually till you'll just have them cold, makes such a big difference in your playing. Try not to rely too much on tablature or too much on learning shapes on the guitar neck or patterns. You really want to learn the notes and the intervals. It'll take you so much farther. Tablature, certainly use it, have fun with it. It's a great way to learn songs, but you don't want to rely on it solely. And a lot of times, too many guitarists spend too much time just learning shapes, right? You really want to learn those intervals and those notes, because then you'll be able to take that shape and blast it all over the neck in any key. Does it take a little extra time to do that? Sure, but it's well worth it in the end, Sure, start off by just learning the fingering or the shape, but eventually know what that scale is, know those notes, know those intervals. It'll help you so much when you get into like playing certain notes over certain chords, or putting certain notes together to make a chord, or to create a certain emotion, or creating some drama in your soloing, or landing on certain hip landing tones or chord tones. Analyze the chord changes and really look at the chords when you're trying to figure out what to play lead guitar, solo, improvisation wise. It's really the chords that give you the roadmap to what you can use when you're soloing in improvisation. The key is only just a part of it. You really want to start analyzing the chords and coming up with cool things to play over each chord change, or things that are cool to play over a given chord. And it's a little bit more difficult to get that technique, but it opens up the gateway to so much more. Why limit yourself? So get in the habit of writing down the chords and understanding the chords, and studying the relationship between chords and scales, and what scales sound good over which chords is invaluable. Just don't learn licks. Learn from the lick. And what I mean by that is, sometimes I hear students say, oh, my last guitar teacher showed me this lick and this lick and this lick, and they'll play 3 kind of cool licks. And I'll be like, okay, let me see you solo over those licks in this key. And they can't do it because they just learned the shape or the position or where they were at, right? But not how to move that around, or not how to vary it, or not how to play it in different keys, or not know what scale that lick is taken from. So you can make up your own licks and take one lick and turn it into 50 licks, right? And a little tip when you're soloing an improv, or even if you're just noodling around, always know what key you're in. Always know what key you're in. It really makes a big deal. Even if you just have your guitar and you're just, kind of wanking around, sitting in front of the TV, always know what key you're in. That's going to help you to understand the application of key and where you're at on the guitar neck. So even when you're noodling around, just kind of know in the back of your mind, even if it's in that subconscious, what key am I in? Number 9, I would say, is just don't learn scales. Learn how to apply them. So much, again, of getting that guitar playing to that next level is about musical application and context, and how to use what you're learning in a musical context. Knowing all the scales in the world. Knowing every scale ever created by man won't do you a bit of good unless you know how to use them, right? Over what chords can I play them? When can I whip them out in a musical context? Over which jam tracks, which key, which chords? And again, many of these things, I've kind of created this list because I've taught thousands and thousands of students, all over the world, both privately and through my website at nextlevelguitar.com. So I see the same issues coming up all the time. And that's why I keep designing exercises and lessons to kind of deal with these. Know your major scales in addition to the pentatonics, and learn your major scales cold for a few reasons. If you really got your pentatonic scales, minor and major, down, and you're trying to get to the next level, then you really got to start playing in the modes. And it's not a real complex thing, but the system that I teach, it's all based off of the major scale. So in addition to knowing the pentatonic scales, knowing your major scales is important, because the major scales will unlock the modes to you. And by going through those major scales, I teach you how to start playing in the modes of the major scale. The modes, you probably heard some of these names: Dorian, Aeolian, Phrygian, Lydian, all those Greek names, right? That many people think is this complex series of music theory. And it really isn't. And it'll really get your playing to the next level if you know how to use them. And it's not that complex. But a lot of people, when they teach it, they really make it super difficult, and it doesn't have to be. But getting to those modes, I kind of teach you by going through the major scale. So there's my list of 10 in no particular order. My apologies if this was kind of wordy. I just think those things I see over and over as deficiencies in students. So I want you to start attacking them, put a little bit more time in your practice regimens aside for maybe working on your rhythm skills, or learning a couple of new chords a week, or to start learning how to analyze chord progression so you could get the roadmap to solo over them. And you'll find your guitar playing soar through the roof. I would not steer you wrong, good people, okay? And if you want to learn more in depth on any one of these things and tons of others, go to our website, nextlevelguitar.com. We add new content every month. Right now, there's like 850 video lessons and growing. There's written lessons, jam tracks. The site is very comprehensive and packed. Beginners, intermediates, advanced. It's pretty killer. You'll love it. Check it out. All right. And I'm David Taub. You're the good people. Thanks so much for tuning in. More great guitar lessons coming up, and we'll see you soon. Rock on.